Hello YouTube, today we're going to be learning to do ollies. You might notice I'm recording the video in my apartment and I'm using clips from somewhere else. That's because I recorded this video 3 times and the audio was always horrible, so I'm just going to do it this way. Okay, so what is an ollie? That was an ollie. The first step in learning an ollie is this throw. If you don't know how to do that throw and you're not comfortable in wheel manipulations, you're definitely not ready to be learning ollies, so I'm not going to be explaining that throw in this video. The next step is going to be to practice these static one-footed ollies, which look like this. So there are a ton of variations of this. You can do it with your right foot, with your left foot, you can do it behind the wheel, in the wheel, you can do it forwards, and you can do it backwards, and you can do it spinning in both directions. Figure out which ones are relevant to your ollie and practice those. If you're spinning this way and you're doing a forward ollie, you're going to want to learn to do the forward throws with either foot, both behind and inside the wheel. These are done just like that throw I showed you earlier, but you keep your foot on the wheel, and then you control it and bring it back up to you instead of having it flip away from you. You just take your throw, bring your foot up, around, and back down, and press down on it to pop it back up and towards you. You got to get a feel for it. It'll take a couple of tries, and it's really important to feel the wheel with your foot and just control it and work on it. They're all different. All the different positions work a little bit differently, but they're not really super difficult, and I don't really have too many tips other than just do it. Here are a bunch of examples of me doing a bunch of them. Don't stress like crazy on these. You might notice that some of them are really hard, like the inside ones with this foot is a pain in the butt, and they're not necessarily super relevant to an ollie. So just get a bunch of them pretty comfortable and practice them as much as you like. Before we get to integrating this trick with our waltz, let's talk about our stance for a second. For this trick, you're going to want pretty much a normal waltz stance, but perhaps with your feet a little bit narrower, probably about shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit more, but nothing too crazy. You can do this trick with really narrow feet, really wide feet, but it's going to be easiest with just a general comfortable stance. The reason why I recommend a little bit narrow is because if all of your weight is in one spot, when it comes down, it's going to have a greater effect on the wheel to pop it back up. Okay, so the next step is we're going to learn to go from our waltz to just jumping off of the wheel and letting it do a coin spin. The first step to doing this is we're actually going to, while we're waltzing, just step off the wheel and then gently release the wheel with our hands. Once you get comfortable with that, you're going to try to just jump off of the wheel with all 4 limbs at the same time and let the wheel go into a point. And then finally, you're going to want to let go of the wheel with your hands first, and then just ride it with just your feet for like a billionth of a second, and then jump off the wheel. So you hopefully just felt something really interesting. When you take your hands out before your feet, there's a moment where your feet and all of your body weight is forcing the wheel down into the floor. That's a huge part of an ollie, because after you throw, your feet are still on the wheel, and you use your feet to kick the wheel into an ollie. So there is a small kick with this foot. It's one of those things you'll just have to learn and feel when playing around with an ollie. I don't really have too many tips or exact details on what that thing is, but it's something, and hopefully you just felt it. Okay, so the next step is we're going to combine the 2 drills. We're going to ride the wheel, jump off, and do a one-footed ollie. But for this, we need to know the throw, which is going to be that throw I showed you guys earlier, but it's going to be more like a handspring when you're in the wheel. So when you're on this foot, the wheel's going to be behind you, it's going to pass over your head when you're center, and then when you get to this foot, it's going to be in front of you, and you're going to throw it down kind of like, and here's a clip. Start here, bring it back, center, and throw. Great, so now we're going to combine those 2 exercises into riding the wheel, and jumping off and doing a one-footed ollie. And for this, you're going to want to do the same 4 that you did previously, all of those throws, and it's going to look like this. Okay, so far we've done a ton of warm-up drills. We're feeling really confident, and we can do one-footed ollies, which is pretty awesome. So the next step is to do an actual ollie. So when you first start doing actual ollies, there's basically 2 things you want to focus on. First one is don't be afraid. Just do it. Just do it. Listen to that speech of that guy yelling about doing it, and then do it. The second thing is that you want to jump with the wheel. So the wheel moves when you do a coin, you rotate, and you're not going straight up and down in the same spot. You're actually shifting over and to the side. So for me, when I do a spinning this way forward ollie, I actually jump backwards and rotate a little bit like that. If you just focus on those 2 things, you should be able to do a really crappy ollie that'll look something like this. I don't know why I have this mini wheel with me. It's just in my apartment, and since I was talking about wheels, I have a mini wheel with me. Okay, once you can jump up and down and land back on the wheel, the first thing you'll notice is that the wheel is probably not coming up high enough for you to grab it. So to fix that, you need to kick down harder so that you can pop the wheel up high enough that you can grab it. The way we're going to do that is we're going to pick our feet up so that we can extend our time in the air so the wheel has more time to spin around, and also so that when we come down we can add more force by extending our legs out while we're falling, combined with the force of gravity, which is going to look something like this, which is a much harder landing than if I just did this, because I can stomp outward. If you do that together with your jump, it'll pop the wheel up really nice. The next problem you're going to find is that you're probably going to end up landing on mostly just your right foot. Your left foot is going to lose track of where the wheel is, and you're going to pop the wheel straight up on one spot, and it's not going to have any spin in it at all. You're just going to end up completely dead. So to fix that, we're going to actually jump over to our left foot. And the best way I can describe it is that it feels like you're jumping over a fence. Like you're doing some parkour move over the fence. You're like, and you see my feet are doing kind of like a rounded motion, like the original steps. And so when we come down from our fence hop, we want to get all of our weight on this foot first, and then it's going to be a 1-2 sort of. And that's going to get us into our waltz. The left leg is going to pop us up so the wheel is off the floor, and the right leg is going to come in and give us our spin back. And that's how we go from an ollie to a powerful waltz. And if you do that properly timed, you'll come out of your ollie with more speed than you went into it. A big part of getting the feeling of jumping over correctly is focusing on feeling the wheel coming up with this foot. You feel the timing of it coming up, and you control where it goes, and this foot is actually going to stop it from coming back a little bit. So when you start doing it this way, you're not going to have to jump back as much, because you're going to be telling the wheel where you want it to go. You're going to keep contact with it all the way up, jump over and around it. But it's really important to feel the wheel and just practice it a lot. It may, you know, for me it probably took like 50 to 100 tries to get like my first landing on the wheel. It then took like another 1,000 tries to get a smooth, fast, powerful ollie. So a question you guys probably are going to have is, how high do I need to jump? And you don't need to jump at all. You can actually do an ollie just by picking your feet up and putting them back down really quickly. You don't need to jump, but I recommend jumping very high because it'll be easier the higher you jump. But don't jump crazy high. Jump like normal high. Just, I don't know, do whatever you want to do. Good luck. So that's all I have for you guys. I know this video is only 10 minutes long, I'm going to leave you guys off with a bunch of clips of some cool variations that I've done, as well as just a bunch of slow motion footage so you guys can see it in slow motion. If you guys want to see some super cool variations, obviously check out Hugo's channel. He is the originator of this trick, I believe. I'll put his link in the description below. Keep spinning.